Hello, good evening, and welcome. This is the Inview. My name is Clint Denyer. We're here every Sunday with a plethora of guests and discussions about anything and everything as well. We've opened this up tonight to be slightly different than normal. We have got two amazing guests on tonight, actually. We have got, just to let you know, we have got Simon Heathcote, who has been on the show, but not for some time. He's a lovely guy. Really looking forward to seeing him. He founded Soulvision in 2009 to integrate the soul into modern therapy after he experienced its absence at both personal and professional levels. He spent 8 years at the Priory, Roehampton, specialised in treatment of sex and love addiction, helping clients find antidotes to their disease. He spent 5 years as a psychotherapist with the award-winning Arrigo Programme. Latterly, as a senior practitioner, earlier spent 3 years training deep memory process. He's a fascinating guy. He's also a person that writes poetry, and he has very strong views on today's world and what's going on with us as well, which is really important as well. So I'm really looking forward to him coming on the show. He's on tonight 8:45, and then after that we've actually got Dick Wiener, who was a window cleaner the last time he was on this show, but he's actually changed. And I don't know if he's been taken in by some American channel or something, but he has his own show. And we're going to link into him as he's live on his show. And he's apparently going to be talking to Boris Johnson. So that'd be interesting. That'd be after Simon later on tonight. Hello, Jason McCusbro has joined us. How are you? I hope you're well. It's good to have you on board. So you know, it's all geared up for quite a spectacle show tonight, I can tell you. And then, of course, our sister show, which is on Wednesdays, which is very much about your view, is what we're bringing to this tonight. So between now and 7:45, I'm going to tell you a lot of different news of the week. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be about COVID. And everything I talk about with COVID is not detrimental to anyone that works in any hospitals or anyone works in any help in any shape or form, or anyone that's a key worker, because you're all doing amazing work. This is down to the people that are inept, that are actually ruling the country. And we're going to delve into some areas of things that I think we need to look at. If you agree, if you not agree, if you want to ring in at any point, 07403 436 942 up until 7:45. Also, I want to talk about what I've found here, and I'm just going to read this out to you. This is from the Cambridgeshire Inalienable Rights Movement. It's on Facebook. And it's the Cambridgeshire Inalienable Rights Movement. This is what they posted. They said 3 weeks to flatten the curve. It turned into 4 months to protect the NHS. They said masks are not recommended and do not stop the spread. Then they made us wear them, saying it's for your own protection. They said we need antibody tests to determine who's safe to return to normal life. That was the last we heard about these tests, and they don't want us to know how many people could now be immune. They needed to remain terrified. They said you cannot invite your family into your home. Then they told us to meet them in the pub for a cheap meal. They said only essential businesses allowed to stay open. This included off licenses that primarily sell alcohol, yet they banned alcohol in thousands of pubs. Studies reveal that masks offer no protection against catching the virus. So they say you are not wearing your mask to protect yourself, you are wearing it to protect others from you. From that point on, you were walking, talking potential serial killer. They said this will end when we get a vaccine. They lied. They introduced track and trace at a cost of hundreds of millions of pounds. They said this is a way forward. It almost completely disappeared and didn't work and was a complete waste of money. They introduced the tier system as a rebranded lockdown, and they said the vaccine was almost here and we just need the vaccine. They said 5,000 people would die a day by November. They didn't. They said the predictions were based on facts and they're based on lies and accuracies. They cancelled 4.4 million cancer screenings. They cancelled over 2 million essential operations on the over 50s. And by now, the people were beginning to get complacent, so they announced a new variant, COVID. had appeared. It was much more dangerous, it spread quicker, and it affected more children. We were told we just need to get this vaccine, things will get better. And then they said the vaccine is here. Hooray! Fantastic. They also said, but this changes nothing. You will still need to wear a mask and follow the rules for another year. They started injecting people on telly. They said the vaccine doesn't stop you catching the virus. They said the vaccine doesn't stop you passing it on. They said nothing has changed. They allowed us one day for Christmas. They said schools are safe, return to school. That evening they said schools are closed, keep your children at home. They introduced another lockdown. They said it will last 6 weeks. It won't. The next day, a senior NHS doctor let slip that not all the thousands of COVID patients in hospital were actually being treated for the condition. Many had been admitted for other conditions and have subsequently tested positive despite showing no symptoms. A large percentage have caught it after being admitted. And she said no records are available to determine exactly how many COVID patients are actually being treated for COVID. They have no idea. So here we are, the start of another year. In lockdown again, being denied a simple home blood test that will tell us if we're immune. Being told to take a vaccine despite the fact it does none of the things we're told it would. Being subjected to 24-hour bombardment of doom, gloom, and falsehoods from compliant media. Being forced to accept living like this in a never-ending man-made dehumanizing nightmare, forced to be grateful to have nearly every life decision made for us, being conditioned to accept that living an utterly sterile, joyless existence somehow benefits us all. The thing is, the more we comply, the more restrictions, limitations, regulation, new law they introduce. Think it's bad now, just wait. Very interesting. It's a very interesting piece that was written, which sums up a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues, and a lot of people can say, well, yes, well, it's not easy. It's not easy for any of them, that whoever's in there really, but it is in lots of ways. We do make the right decisions, and lots of things have been changed so many times. That comes from the Cambridgeshire Inalienable Rights Movement. So I just thought I'd read that out. It's quite interesting. So what has been going on in the news this week? Well, tomorrow, as you know, we have got Mr. Hancock confirmed all travellers returning to England will have to go to COVID tests before being released from quarantine, and a new online travel portal. 16 hotels have been contacted to provide 4,000 homes for the start of the regime on Monday, tomorrow. Officials warned of a fresh outbreak of the South African variant. A leaked document last week suggested, and obviously, if there are lawbreakers here that are lying about red list travel from 33 countries abroad, then you can get 10 years in prison. Paedophiles, rapists, murderers don't get 10 years, depending on the cases, obviously. But 10 years is complete madness. In this document, a leaked document last week suggested ministers believe the system will have to cope with an estimated 1,425 arrivals a day from red list countries. At this rate, the quarantine hotels will be almost full in 3 days. Government sources last night said they hope to book more accommodation in the coming days. Well, I think Mr. Koch and his idea of these travelling, I mean, why bring it up big now when we've had this problem right from the beginning? Right from the beginning. In March, they should have stopped it. February, they should have stopped it. A year ago, they should have stopped it. But no, they didn't. 100,000 people coming into this country a day. Well, they're going to fill up every hotel in the country. Interestingly, the fast over the quarantine hotels scheme deepened yesterday when emerged rules on self-isolation will allow returning travellers out of their rooms for fresh air and a cigarette break. Earlier this week, the government laid out details of how from Monday, tomorrow, tourists face 10 days locked away in hotels near airports if they recently arrived back in Britain from a red list of 33 nations with suspect mutant virus. And amid a second day of chaos, assessing the bookings website, a copy of the guidelines of these hotels which are taking part in the scheme showed the plans were less stringent than first thought. And you've got to remember also that these people are going to have another £3,000 added to their holiday because depending on how big the family is, their quarantine hotel is going to cost them roughly about 1,700 quid. What else we got here? This is a scientist whose modelling led to the first draconian restrictions, said he was hopeful that this would be the final national lockdown. Professor Neil Ferguson said the shutdown is likely to be lifted for good in the spring, and restrictions on seeing friends and families outdoors could be eased by May. I want to just jump back to something here, because at the moment we have got the COVID numbers for today of people that have died is roughly about 654 people have died within the last 28 days of testing positive for coronavirus. 650 odd out of 66 million people. The numbers are going down. We are well below the R rate. We're 0.7, 0.9. By the time we come to Boris Johnson's big statement he's going to make on next week, on Monday, I think next week, actually, on the 22nd of February, where he's going to put out his roadmap, where he's going to say schools will go back on March the 8th, and we will bring back some sort of normality. There is a lot of problems here, massive problems. The hospitality industry, many businesses are virtually in collapse right now, and many people across the country are in an absolutely abhorrent state mentally as well. Ordinary people in an abhorrent state mentally as well. What else we've got here? It's not very interesting. I want to just bring up a couple of things that I posted on my wall this week because I think they're interesting. We have got a break in ranks with the Tory party. There is a lot of the Tory party that are now actually starting to get very worried and very jittery in regards to the lockdown. How long is it going to go on? When's it going to end? The roadmap out, and the fact that Sir Charles Walker, who came on, and he went on Channel 4 News, and he did an interview on there, and the interview was very, very interesting because he was saying, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to stay in lockdown forever? Do you know what I mean? And he's absolutely right, because we're not. Basically, we've got to go back to normality. And even Matt Hancock said, well, you know, what's going to happen is COVID would be like accepted like flu. Well, flu doesn't exist apparently now, and neither does pneumonia. What else have we got on here? We have got where are we? Boom, boom, boom. I read about that. I put a poem on here in the week because I was quite incensed and I fancied writing something, and I wrote this poem. It wrote it in about 3/4 an hour, something like that. I put it on there, which sums up a lot of how people feel and how I feel as well. And then I put a sort of a funny post on it, if you like, something to have a bit of a laugh with, where I'm seriously thinking about creating a citizens' party against not just his government but our political system is wrong. That was a bit of fun, really. It wasn't anything other than that. And I do feel that you know, we have to look at these posts and we have to have an all-round embracement for different people that want to do something. I'm not saying that I'm going to do that, because I'm not, but it was just something that I felt at the time I wanted to put out there and gauge an opinion on. And obviously we have to look at that for what it is. You know, we have to look at it for the intensity of what you're feeling inside and what you want to bring to the table. Do you know what I mean? One of the most disgusting things that I read this week that incensed me, and the Who, and not the band, but the Who, the World Health Organization, has stipulated that the vaccine is not to be given to anyone under 18. And now this country, this government, in their infinite wisdom, is saying we're going to trial it with children. Why? Why are they going to do that? Why are they going to do and go against what the World Health Organization has said? Doesn't make sense. Complete and utter madness. But the longer this goes on, the more we go down the rabbit hole. And this is on top of many other things. And something else incensed me this week. 830 peers lord it over us. Posh peers are costing taxpayers over £23 million a year, as the House of Lords has jumped to 830 members. Lords numbers are swollen from Prime Minister Boris Johnson added 52 additional MPs to an unelected House. Only China has a larger unelected legislative body. The Electoral Reform Society said the appointments were more proof that Lords is packed with government cronies. There is a lot of people saying, what have we got? Why have we got the House of Lords? Because there's a lot of people that technically should be at home, sitting in the garden, doing other things. The institution of peers, 830 peers, £23 million a year in taxpayers' money. Plus, every one of them gets an envelope when they go there with 300 quid a day in expenses to go to the bar and have something to eat, because they're probably still open in Parliament, all 16 of them, and food and all the rest of it. So I think it's disgusting, and it just shows the shambolic country we live in. Remember that this right now we are running to 7:45 tonight, when we will have Simon Heathcote on. Between now and then, you can call me on 07403 436 942 and talk about anything you want. Don't have to be COVID, it can be anything. I'm panning this out into other things here. And obviously we've got the massive clawback of money, which is going to happen, isn't it? Millions of families could be clobbered with sky-high council tax bills in April. More than a quarter of districts are expected to hike the rates to £2,000 for those living in Band D houses, priced $68,000 to $88,000. The critics accuse town halls of delivering a kick in the teeth to households hit hardest by COVID. The government has given councils the power to raise bills by up to 5% to meet the increasing costs of social care, while police authorities can add a further £15 to share of their levy. Richard Gardner, Apollo, how are you? Good evening. He says, I would like to thank you for your talking to me yesterday. That's all right. And pulling me out of the dark, shady place I was in. Feeling so much lighter today. Thank you. That's good. I'm really pleased about that, Mr. Richard Gardner. That's what it's all about. Moving away from COVID, because basically you go on and on about COVID. There's so many mistakes. It's full of holes. I pick out all sorts of different stories. We're running with this, remember, to 7:45 tonight, so you can call in at any point you like if you have anything to talk about. 07403 436 942. This is a serving member of the NHS. The SAS has called for better treatment for combat dogs after figures showed almost 1,200 serving dogs for the SAS have been put down by the military. The Special Forces soldier told a paper that more should be done to prevent the dogs of war being destroyed once they have outlived their military usefulness. The soldier, a sergeant and veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, is one of several trained dog handlers serving in the SAS and SBS. The animals have been used to hunt down terrorists and retrieve injured troops from the battlefield, usually selected from Malinois, a breed of Belgian Shepherd. They accompany troops on most missions and be responsible for saving the lives of British servicemen. So what are we doing? Why are we destroying these dogs? Why aren't we putting them out? These dogs are heroes. Do you know what I mean? Why are they killing them? You know, it's bonkers. That makes sense. None of it makes sense. The world's gone mad, completely mad. And this one here, a quarter of prisoners at jail are being allowed every day to work in a supermarket. What do you think about that? HMP East Sutton Park each morning to take jobs at local stores. It is believed some work on checkouts, while others are in the warehouse or stacking shelves. Most major supermarket chains have branches near the Women's Open Prison in Kent, which has around 80 inmates. The report by the Independent Monitoring Board said lags working at supermarkets have soared from 13 when lockdown began in March to 23 now. It also has 28. It also said 28 as trained as baristas after taking a course at jail, while 17 passed customer services courses. So we have got roughly at least 23 to 30 people that go out every day from that prison and work in their local supermarket. Again, changing things again, because we're crossing a very broad spectrum here. It's not just about coronavirus. It is about all sorts of things that caught my eye in the press. Did scientists spot an alien planet or spot a dust? Astronomers have caught a tantalizing glimpse of a speck orbiting a star just like our sun, which could be another habitable planet. The potential planet was spied close to Alpha Centauri A, a star only a little larger and hotter than the sun. It could be the first observation of light from a world in a life-friendly orbit. However, researchers also admit it could turn out to be a cloud of dust or smudge on the screen. It is a relatively close neighbour at just 4.5 light years from Earth, meaning powerful next generation telescopes will be able to examine it in more detail in the coming years. The planet will have appeared as just a few pixels on a screen. The thing is, probably like you, like me, I'm sorry, but it's all rubbish. There's loads of habitable planets within our solar system. And I do know that the flat earthers and also think that there's nothing out there, but there is something out there once you get past Phonon, and there is universes and other universes and solar systems and galaxies and God knows what else. And they all harbour life, and that life is here. They're here. This is quite a remarkable story. This is a woman that, and this is very popular. Very, very popular with Joe Wicks, Ben Fogle, Liz Hurley, Naomi Watts, who else we've got here, and Helena Christensen. They all go outside in the snow and swim in icy waters. It leaves you feeling brilliant, they said. But there's a picture here of somebody, if you can see that, there she is with an axe, as you can see. There she is with an axe. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. I don't know. I don't get it. But at the same time, our bodies are durable, and I do feel very strongly that you are potentially putting yourself at risk. They're called wild swimmers as well. People have been ice swimming or axe swimming, as it has now been dubbed, for centuries all over the world. The Finnish have long advocated that a session in a sauna is swiftly followed up by a roll in the snow or a dip in a lake, having smashed a hole through it first. Only in lockdown, it seems to have taken off. Celebrities including Helena Christensen and Farron Cotton have been singing the praises of an icy dip in social media, while all across the country temperatures plummeted. There's been a reported 323% rise in people wild swimming. So cool because you're not in a swimming pool. And this person, Susanna Constane, who wrote this, says, I'm one of them. So why are you quite rightly asking? I'm always been a person of extremes. Often this is my own detriment, and I can't help thinking what I'm about to discuss is one of those very instances. Cold swimming, wild swimming. Can you imagine that? Swimming in ice. What does it do to your body? I just thought I'd bring it up because I found it quite interesting. This is, I talked about this guy on Wednesday, Elon Musk. Elon Musk, this is a man that realistically can do what he likes in this reality, and no one's there to stop him. I do believe that Elon Musk is from the future, as I said on the show on Wednesday. Elon Musk hopes his new Tesla Roadster will hover like a Back to the Future car. The tech billionaire said while the car of tomorrow might not fly like the DeLorean used by Marty McFly in the science film franchise, it may not need roads either. Doc Brown famously said at the end of the first movie, where we're going, we don't need roads, and it appears these words have struck a chord with Elon. He says, I'd want it to hover, and I was trying to figure out how to make this hover without killing people. Well, that would be quite good, wouldn't it, really? We don't want to go around killing people. But you must bear in mind, this person is building thousands of miles of tunnels, under LA for traffic, basically, for his traffic. He's also somebody that's doing the Neuralink. I talked about it on Wednesday, where he's trying to cross-contaminate or cross-breed between a human and AI, basically. And he's built a robot that actually cuts, in the back of your head, cuts a 10p coin out. Not a 10p coin, but the size of a 10p coin. And then he cuts a bit out of your skull, and then this robot puts in, which is like a 10p piece with a lot of threads from it. And the robot carefully puts these into the stimulus of the brain, the threads, and sits the 10p piece in the skull. And apparently, this will solve many, many problems, solve a lot of ailments, solve a lot of illness. But, you know, we are moving into the territory of Terminator, aren't we? We're moving into the territory from human into actually being robotic. And in a way, as he said before, we've already started that, because, you know, how many people cannot go without a phone? And their phones are basically computers. And the phones have all of your ident on it. Everything you do, who you talk to, all what you look at, everything, all apps, all the things that you like, everything. It's like a living computerized diary you're carrying around with you all the time. If you lose your wallet or you use your phone, which would you be more worried about? I think a lot of people would be more worried about losing their phone than their wallet, to be honest, because probably a lot of people haven't got very much in their wallet, as I can truly understand. He also says maybe it can hover like a meter above the ground or something like that. If you plummet, it'll blow out the suspension, but you're not going to die. Tesla buyers can expect to see a Formula One style steering yoke stick from their dashboard instead of a traditional steering wheel in the new models. The 49-year-old also promised that motorists will not need to do much actual driving. This is very interesting because he's already talking about autopilot cars. He added, autopilot is getting good enough that you won't need to drive most of the time. I find you can rest your head on your knee if it works. The US National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said they had not yet approved Tesla's revolutionary mini steering wheel. Well, it's interesting that somebody's actually standing up to this person, because so far I've not seen anyone do it. This guy is building rockets, billions and billions of pounds. He's a multi-trillionaire. And you've got to ask yourself, where did he get all his money from? How did it all happen? And has he brought money from the future? Has he got a multi-trillion business in the future? I think he probably has. But nobody stops him. NASA are not saying you're not allowed to send rockets up. And apparently, we can't send rockets up anyway, because apparently if you're a flat earther, or you believe in the flat earth, there's a firmament and there's no entrance, which means, and there has been films on YouTube where the rocket goes up, hits a dome, and then stops. So, you know, jury's out on that, but the future may hold even wilder features from Tesla. Back in 2018, he joked on Twitter a SpaceX package for the new Tesla Roadster would include 10 small rocket thrusters. Maybe they will even allow a Tesla to fly. We are heading for the future where cars will not be driven by you. That's basically is going to come. There's no doubt about that. And I do feel that you know, it would be a bit like what we've seen in sci-fi films, because those things will be hitting this country and hitting the world basically in the coming years. Tesla also wants within 5 years to start colonizing Mars, which no one in NASA seems to be anything against him doing it, which I find astounding, because actually Mars has got life on it and in it, and has been there for a very long time. People, super soldiers, whatever you want to call them, have gone there to fight a war that's going on between differing alien races that exist there. And I do feel that it's something that he probably knows about anyway, because he's been there. To be honest, we have jump gates. We don't need to get on a rocket and go days and days and days and days and days across space itself. We can jump in a jump gate and go there just like that. Same as the moon, same as past, present, and future. And that's an interesting factor, because the American government have got machines, jump gates, which actually they can go into the future and bring things back. Well, did Elon Musk decide to walk through one of these and come back here? Because I don't feel he's from this world at all. What else have we got in the news? Here we are. This is one about ladies. Girls want filthy fellas, apparently. Apparently, girls want filthy fellas. Ladies are enjoying dirty sex with their blokes dressed as road sweepers. Can you believe that? Ladies enjoying dirty sex with their blokes dressed as road sweepers. The job topped a poll of British women's favourite fantasy dressing up outfits. More than 1 in 20 admitted getting turned on by their fella wearing the get-up in the bedroom. They pipped accountants into second, with barmen third and binmen fourth. Sailors, traffic wardens and chauffeurs were also made the top 10, as did waiters, chefs and lifeguards. The poll, 3,000 women carried out for the maintenance firm End Tenancy Cleaning, found the main reason we dress up in the bedroom was to try something new. Half admitted it was because sex was boring and we wanted to bring something different. So my partner dressed up as a road sweeper. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Can you believe it? Another interesting story here. And remember, you have got just under a quarter of an hour. If anyone wants to ring in, we have got a special guest coming up, Simon Heathcote, at 1:45, but it's just gone past. You can comment any of the stories I'm talking about or anything you want to do. 07403 436 942. Aliens on 5 planets could be watching Earth and spying on humans, claim scientists. The US expert says the exoplanets would be ideally positioned for ETs to see us and know about Earth. They are thought to be super Earths. They're thought to be super Earths, larger than our planet, but smaller than Uranus and Neptune. And the scientists say alien astronomers with the right equipment would be able to see the Earth is abuzz with electromagnetic activity. Josh Pepper, based at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, and he hasn't put his age there, suggested the 5 planets were a good starting point for astronomers to search for alien life. He said, what if there were intelligent beings on another planet? And if they were looking at the Earth, which of these star systems could they be living in that would enable us to see Earth? This could be a target list for our search for extraterrestrial intelligent life. Astronomers can see if it has an atmosphere. Pepper added, when it emerges, the light is imprinted with the molecule signature of gases in the atmosphere. Using this information, astronomers can piece together the composition of exoplanet atmospheres. You see, one of the things that really pisses me off, to be honest, when we start talking about this, is the fact that because we need air, we need oxygen, we need all these different things to breathe and live. Does it mean that other life form needs that? Maybe it doesn't. If you go down to the deepest oceans where nothing should live, there's things living in huge temperatures, where there's volcanic eruptions, where there's shifting things going on, where there's immense heat, things are living. And then you go to the extremities of the Siberia, if you like, where you've got things that are living in -25, -30. So, I don't feel we need to think that we have to have everything that we have. We aren't a supreme race in the universe. We're soul beings. That's the key. But as humans, we're plankton. Former EastEnders legend, allegedly Grantham, of course, was Dirty Den, is said to be haunting an old prison where he served time for murder. The TV paranormal investigator is convinced his spirit is to blame for spooky noises and shouting at the closed HMP Kingston in Portsmouth. Grantham, who played Dirty Den in the BBC soap, finished his sentence at the Nick in 1976. He has served 10 years of a life sentence for killing a cabbie in 1966 during a bungled robbery in Germany. Urban explorer and paranormal investigator Carl Hassel checked for spirits. He said, "It is definitely spooked. We heard what sounded like Dirty Den's voice saying, 'Release them,' and searched them, and I asked, 'Is anyone there? Anyone here with us now?' And got a reply, 'Yeah.' And at one point we heard shouting and laughing down the corridor. It was terrifying. Leslie Grantham may have left the world, but his spirit is still haunting the prison." Grantham was released from prison in 1976, went to drama school. He landed a Den Watts role in 1985. I remember him in EastEnders. And became one of the show's biggest stars. Then was killed off in 1988, but made a return in 2003 for 18 months. And then Grantham died in 2018, aged 71. So there you are. The thing is, paranormality, things of other worlds, other dimensions, is real. It's as real as what my conversation is with you. And there's no veils between any worlds anymore. None whatsoever. Oh God, Mr. Bojo, here we are. This is bonkers. Boris is to set up a task force to seize the golden opportunities that lay outside the EU. Ministers will slash red tape, stifling firms, and capitalise on the ground we have over our laws again. The PM has ordered them to reform rules to boost growth, innovation, and competition in the UK and attract fresh post-Brexit investment. He wants swift action to enable business to grow while keeping the high standards Britain has championed in the areas such as work and rights. I do feel that my cousin would bear this out. I know he's watching, listening at the moment. I think what he says is right. I don't think we're ever going to leave, to be honest. I feel that we're always going to be in. Even though they said we're gone, we haven't gone at all, really. And people have said how different it would be if we're in there. Yes, it would. Because, everyone, we sit in a place where at the moment we're getting vaccinations, 15 million vaccinations. Nothing like that has been done in any other country. But the problem is that there needs to be 2 vaccines. And as I said earlier on, the last count was about 600 or 700 people have had the second vaccine. And there's been 15 million people, and still 2 million people from the group that they've been the over 80s and the over 70s that haven't come forward to have it done. And I do feel that's going to get, as it go down, I do feel there's more people. I'm not advocating don't have it, but in my opinion, I don't want it, and I don't want any of that stuff put in my body. But it's entirely up to everyone that wants to have it done or not have it done. I just feel it's dangerous, and I feel it's untested, untried, and it's a massive experiment on humanity that could potentially go wrong. I do know there's a lot of people sitting back and watching this at this moment in time to see what happens, and to see what results will be. So, watch this space really with it. And, I do feel if you go on the government website and you see what's in these vaccines, I feel that you would straight away think, do I really want to put that in my body? What have we got here? Another news story. Apes are too lazy to have a natter. Chimpanzees could talk, but are just too lazy to learn, says scientists. Biologists have suggested if they tried a bit harder, they could easily have a chat. But instead, the idle apes prefer to spout incomprehensible nonsense. Oh, they must be all Tories or anyone that's in Parliament. Like politicians refuse to answer questions when grilled on shows. Experts believe the chimps are not using their full potential to communicate, taking into account their intelligence and the way they live in groups. It's a bunch of apes get together and spent just like half an hour moving their mouths around and making noises and pointing at different objects. Our research suggests they would almost certainly figure out how to say a few things. I get a bit sick of this as well, where apparently human beings originate from apes. I don't get it, don't buy it, and I won't have it, because if we originate from apes, why have we got apes still? They should have all evolved into human beings, but they haven't, because we haven't come from. in my opinion. What else have we got here? It's another spooky story. Remember, in about 5 minutes time, I have got Simon Heathcote up, who is a psychologist and many different things I'll go through in a minute. Anna Friel has admitted that she believes in spooks from a bizarre supernatural experience as a child. The Martial actress, 44, said she watched a bear ornament move across the table on its own. And she said, I remember me and my dad were watching television. I was 7, had a little brass bear. We watched it move from one side of the table to the other. And she asked, how's that possible, Daddy? And he said, I have an answer for most things, but not for that. So that is a supernatural experience. Paranormality exists in our reality on a constant basis. And what do you think of this weather we're having at the moment? My God, it's freezing cold. And, you know, again, my heart goes out to everyone out there that is worried about buying gas, buying electric, or even people that are homeless. Well, nobody ever talks about them because nobody's really interested in them, are they? Nobody's interested in what about them with COVID? You know, what about all the homeless people out on the streets right now? What about them right now? No one cares. No one actually cares for them. Do you know what I mean? Richard Gardner says, I agree. Of course, we didn't come from apes. No, we didn't. Absolute load of rubbish, isn't it? I mean, you know, if we did, apes would not exist in our reality. And, you know, it's a known fact. I can't remember where I read it, but I read it somewhere where in Neolithic caves, they recently found out that Neolithic man actually used to mate with humans. So Neolithic man in his cave going ugh with a club met human form people. Now these could be extraterrestrial, or these could be something else altogether different. So just that text there, sorry. So, you know, apes do not exist. Apes do not exist. Apes and the connection to us as humans does not exist. It's not real and it's not here. What else have we got? A couple more stories, hopefully, before we go into our first guest. This is an interesting one. There's a few people out there I have a lot of respect for. Julian Assange is one. There's a man that just spoke his truth. Had to be hauled up in the Ecuador embassy for 7 years, and is now in prison, hauled out of that building for doing nothing but telling the truth. Edward Snowden had to go in exile, had a difficult journey. If you ever watch the fictional story of Edward Snowden, it's fascinating to watch because his escape plan, because he actually leaked from his high position he had within the security agency in America, that he came out with all the stuff of the phone hacking and all the what they listened to, all the algorithms, all manner of different things. And I have a lot of respect for him as well. And obviously he's now from Russia. He's on various shows from time to time talking. He's a very interesting person. Julian Assange won his fight to avoid a US jail. These are old stories now. I'm going down to some old ones. But as far as I know, it hasn't been agreed, even though I get very confused with what's going on with this man. He's in jail at the moment. And as in jail at the moment, I don't feel he's very well. I know that his wife is visiting him from time to time. And obviously, you know, they want him extradited to America because they made a fool out of him. But there's quite a few people that have done that over the years. But, you know, all he done was tell the truth. Do you know what I mean? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. What else have we got? This story here: travellers could face jail and fines of $2,000 if they go to illegal sites within a year of conviction. Ministers. Oh, and here we go. We have got our guest up. Here he is. We should have on the call Mr. Simon Heathcote. Are you there? I'm going to call him back. It's for some unknown reason is called dropped. Let's try him again. This is live, as you can tell, because let's get him. Oh, Simon, where are you? Here we go, Simon. Let's try him now. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Hi, Clint. Well, I'm relieved to be speaking to you. I've just had an hour and a half with clients, so I thought I'd come on and have some bit of light relief.
And you come on here for that?
Yeah, certainly light relief after client work, I tell you.
Yeah,
how you
that's
doing?
True. I'm very well. Yes, it's fantastic to have you back on. I have a lot of respect for you, and you're a fascinating person. You've had a very varied life.
I've tried. I try to mix it up, Clint, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because on your, when I was reading out your profile, I pinched this off your website, by the way, which is very important. Founded Soulvision to integrate the soul into modern therapy. I think it's groundbreaking, to be honest, because the world of the psyche, the world of psychology itself has been very stuck for a very long time, hasn't it?
I would say so. I think it's, I always say, you know, psyche means soul, but if you look at psychology training, where's the soul in it? It's all statistics and
yeah, and it's all statistics, and it's also about just giving them something to suppress them.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is the freedom in that?
Pardon?
Where is the freedom in that? You give somebody a tablet.
Well, there isn't really. I mean, you know, you're talking about psychiatry there, but there isn't. You know, it's a simple, quick fix. The therapies that they come up with is usually CBT. You get 6 sessions of that, and you're supposed to sort it out. But you know, I think my view is people are a lot deeper than that. You know, we are not just egos. We're not just walking minds. We are something, as you know, we're a little bit deeper than that. And many people, ones that I work with, they're looking for something deeper. They're looking to understand themselves in a very deep way. And for some people, only that will do.
Yeah.
And the system doesn't get them, in my experience.
So when you started, obviously you started, and you, in a way, you've been maverick. You do things your way, but you would have spent some years in what you did in relation to watching, learning, and seeing around you what people do, and then looking at different ways of doing it by incorporating compassion, understanding, and soul worthy into it.
Well, that's right. I mean, I started training about 92 and finished training about 97. I've been working ever since. And, you know, what I noticed, Clint, and maybe I've told you this before, working in hospitals, that often you get people, you know, with addiction problems who come in and out on a revolving door basis. And
yeah.
I think the system would just not understand them, and they would throw up their hands in despair and blame the client. And I never liked that. I kind of thought, hang on a minute, we're missing something here. Let's look at ourselves, not the client. And when I started, I used to do a lot of talks and lectures and things talking about the soul and reincarnation and the understanding that we are more complex than the system is trying to diagnose and identify us. Then some of those people the light went on. You know, they were able to think, oh, well, maybe I'm not just this grubby addict they're telling me I am. Maybe there's a little bit more to me.
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
But how did that go down? How did you go down with the fraternity when you did that, when you spoke to these people?
It's a very good question. Certainly with some of the staff, they looked at me like I was a bit gaga. I think woo-woo is the word we use.
Yeah.
And I did a big lecture once at the Priory Hospital in London in the theatre with all the psychiatrists, and I actually went out on a limb and I said all this stuff. And I think, you know, most of them didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Some of them did, and to me that's what matters. You know, even if you can just get one person, you know, certainly with the clients, they've been, as I say, in and out of the hospital, not being understood, and then someone said, well, what about the soul side of this? And it is as if for many of them that was the missing piece of the jigsaw that they needed to hear. And then their journey went on in a better way.
As you know, as well as I do, Simon, that as humans, we're just in a vehicle. The soul, or soul being, I call it, is one that travels between many vehicles in many lifetimes. And obviously coming to the plane here this time, I think many souls thought about it quite hard before they came back to Earth, because I think many of us have been back here quite a few times, to be honest.
You've been up at the moment, people wanting to think about this particular trip we're on. I don't think at a conscious ego level we were anticipating all this, were we?
No, not at all. And you know, I always say, and a lot of people think I'm bonkers and all sorts, but I mean, I've been doing readings for years and years, and within it, the soul is the key. And you know, putting it's a bit like I always say, that you have the most amazing car sitting outside your house. It's a representation of you. But if the engine's missing stuff, or it actually hasn't got an engine, because you actually haven't built it, because you haven't actually built what you have inside yourself. Now,
that's right.
And that is putting together every thread, every strand. You know, obviously you've dealt with lots of different people in all sorts of different circumstances, but you know, we all do it in different ways in actually trying to wheedle out what the main problems are with people. And this will affect their confidence, self-esteem, their understanding, the pressures they feel in this reality, and to a degree, with like yourself, you'll look at this and think, well, because not that you have all the answers, none of us do, but you look at these people and think, well, these are the actions you need to take. Now, that is the big step, isn't it? It's actually getting somebody to recognize it and buy it. Do you know what I mean?
I think action can be very difficult for people. I think you're right. Action is, you know, certainly if you're on a 12-step program, for instance, they talk about action being the answer. You know, you've got to take the 12 steps. You've got to do something. You know, you've actually got to be willing to do something. And then, of course, we meet this phenomenon called resistance that Freud talked about. You know, that within all of us there is a resistance to getting better. There is a sort of natural self-sabotage that we all have. So, I mean, a lot of the work
and we do that to people as well. We put them up, then we drop them down.
Well, the media's full of that, isn't it? I mean, I just heard you talking about Assange, which we could come on to, but you know, there is this kind of tendency to do that, as you say. But resistance is normal. You know, you have in therapy to embrace the client's resistance and accept that the resistance is there for a reason, that it probably protected them when they were in childhood. Digging your heels in sometimes does protect you when you haven't got any other tools. And often as children, that's the one we use. But
and obviously it's very difficult, because at that time, when the soul comes into body and we grow, we come into this family, that 9 times out of 10 we would know these people because we'd know them from past life. Or we might be in a surrogate family that we don't know, but we've been put in it to go through some experience or journey.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're brought up in an environment. If you're brought up in an environment that's violent, aggressive, the imprints, if you like, will not necessarily on the soul, but the soul gets lost. So you start to go down into a cave.
That's right. And it's funny you should say that, because just working with someone just now, just before the call, and, you know, looking at the astrology and looking at people with certain aspects and the reason they're born into certain families. And with this person, the reason he'd been born into a difficult family was because in prior lives he'd had excessive dependency on other people.
Yeah. And
so being born into a family where you don't get your needs met, part of the evolutionary intention for that soul to become more independent. So, okay, the props have been pulled away from me in this lifetime. I'm having to actually learn to develop that emotional security inside myself and experience that I haven't got it.
Yeah.
It's not coming through this family. In fact, I'm getting the opposite. I'm getting a kicking.
You're right. I totally agree with you. And I mean, I can look at my life where many things have, as it does with all of us, we have to go through lots of evolutionary change to experience what we are, to experience within inside ourselves, and to tap into the source of what we have inside. And sometimes we have to lose everything to gain everything. But people want to hang on to things. That's the trouble.
Well, we're talking about attachments, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're talking about we're talking about attachment theory that came out of the 50s with John Bowlby and Winnicott and all those people in early psychology in Britain, where they talked about the need for healthy attachments as we're developing as children. And of course, as we're saying, many people don't experience those healthy attachments.
No.
And therefore, what we develop later on is unhealthy attachments, addictions, things we cling to, things that we need to learn to let go of. But we struggle to let go of because, if our development has been injured, then it's very natural to look for something or someone outside of us in order to feel whole again. Yeah,
but we also, what people tend to do is that if they're ignorant or in denial, they will then pulverize whoever they're with their problems by not actually looking at them, by actually being narcissistic.
Well, that's another part of it, isn't it? The whole narcissism thing,
And that is absolutely paramount right now. Narcissistic behavior, self-centeredness.
Well, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I'm thinking you may be speaking about some of the people who are running the world at the moment, the government. The people pulling their strings, Clint, who are very narcissistic, who really are kind of willing to play God with people's lives. And, it's absolutely not their job to play God, but they've decided they're going to play God.
Yeah.
And look out, world.
But they're driven by something else, aren't they? That isn't them. These are puppets in a massive game that's going on, depending on whatever you want to believe in or whatever. But I do believe that they're not really, they haven't got any power at all, to be honest. They're just minions, basically, told to do a job.
Certainly looks that way at the moment.
But I mean, looking at the mess that we're in at this moment in time, I mean, the reason why I do this show is because I from a very early age, I hated being lied to, and I've done everything in my life to try and, I've researched, done many different things in my life, gone out, done lectures myself, all sorts of things to tell people the truth. And that's why I do this show, really. And that's why I bring up all sorts of weird and wonderful stories, certainly loads of COVID stuff, of the holes that exist, that people, I don't know what it is now, Simon, that people still, I mean, for me, I can quite clearly see that 658 people that died in the last 28 days, which comes down to about 27 people a day, when we got 66 million people live in the UK, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Well, I think the clip, I don't know if you saw the clip of Question Time recently, where one of the panelists said, hang on a minute, if you look at the under 60s with no comorbidities, there's less than 400 deaths so far.
Yeah.
Yes, it started. He said, get a grip, get some perspective. And they shut him down pretty much straight away.
Yeah, well, they would do.
Yeah, because people, there's an agenda. People need to realize that the agenda came first, the COVID came second.
Yeah.
The agenda is paramount, bringing in this great reset.
Yeah.
Do people think a book called COVID-19, The Great Reset, 427 pages, published on July the 9th, illustrating or describing the future of the world and the merging with AI, was written in 2 months or 3 months, and they insane. I mean, this is something that's been on the cards for a very long time, as I know you will know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people, and I was actually thinking about what we were going to talk about earlier, and I wrote a few things down. And what this is all about, what we're talking about, is light. Yeah. We're talking about people's different reactions to this thing, or misunderstandings, is how much light a person has developed inside themselves.
Yeah.
If you haven't developed the light inside your own heart, you can't see clearly what's going on.
No.
What you see is the reflected light in the world. And when we shine a bright light on anything and name it, as we've done with these things, and trot them out every day, repeating these names to people, you name something, it becomes a reality.
Yeah.
If you focus the light on it every day, as the media are doing, it becomes a bigger reality. And what happens then with this propaganda is people cannot see the truth. They have no idea of what's really going on. And what we're being shown repeatedly is concepts. And what this is really showing me, Clint, is very clearly people's different reactions is all people are doing is seeing their own concepts. They're not seeing reality at all.
No, they're not.
This is actual reality.
There is somebody said the other day that there's two realities here. There's your reality and the reality you live in.
That's right. Yeah. But people are not living in reality, at all. They're believing their little bit of the bubble, the bit they're looking at.
But they're only believing it because they're believing people that lie to them.
That's right. And there are reasons for that, aren't there? People believing, they project the loving parent onto the government. They believe they're being cared for and looked after. They believe it's genuine. They're too scared to look at the truth. They can't actually believe if you put facts under their nose, they still won't believe you.
They won't. No, I know.
Cognitive dissonance has been huge at this time. So you can't, and I think what we learn out of this is, what I believe, as I saw growing up and working with people for 25 years now, is that there are bandwidths of consciousness. If you're in a particular bandwidth, you cannot see outside it.
No.
So we say this stuff to people, but if they're in their own little bandwidth and they're not in our bandwidth, they'll think we're crazy.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with intelligence. A lot of very intelligent people are swallowing completely what the governments are telling them.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with intelligence. Everything to do with consciousness. Everything to do with how much light you've developed inside yourself and how much you're seduced by the false light in the world.
And being seduced is a good way of putting it, really, because before COVID, it was Brexit, 3 years of division, divide and conquer, basically. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, which is where we sit now in relation to COVIDs and non-COVIDs.
Yes, that's right. It's setting people up for division, anger, argument. It's confusing people. It's wicked, actually, what's going on.
And it's in 10 years' time, people will forget how to hug. Oh, you can't hug somebody.
Well, if people don't stand up soon or wake up to realize that all their freedoms and rights are being taken away for something that, in the book this World Economic Forum wrote, they say this isn't a huge deal, this COVID thing, but we're going to use it to bring in a new reality. So that's the purpose of it.
Yeah.
And so to do that, we've got to convince people, as the newspaper's doing, there's hundreds of thousands of people dying. As Imperial College said at the beginning, there's going to be millions globally. This isn't a pandemic. It's a picture of a pandemic. They're two very different things, Clint.
Yeah.
People like to say it's a pandemic. No, it isn't. It's a story of a pandemic, which people have believed, which tells us that people don't see real. They see their own concepts.
I totally agree with you, and so does Richard Gardner. He says, indeed, yes, perfectly said. And Melanie Kellaway is watching, listening at the moment, says, enjoy this conversation. It's like our consciousness is a better awareness.
That's really good, because this is all about consciousness. And if we think about consciousness is that thing that's with us whether we're 8 or 80. That's why old people say, well, I still feel like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Because consciousness never changes. It's eternal, it's permanent, and it's self-shining, as the Hindus say. Consciousness is what we are. But out of that consciousness arises this small thing called an I. This is me, this I, which we believe. That's the first concept. Then every other concept follows that. And what we have to do is turn the I thought round and turn inwards and start questioning, what is this I that I've assumed myself to be?
Yeah.
Because if I look for it in the body, I can't find it. It doesn't exist. There is not an entity called an ego or an I. This is a concept. But because it's so close to us, we never question it. And thus, every other concept is born. We do not understand we're living in a conceptual reality instead of reality. We build a whole universe for ourselves and believe the madness of it all, as we can see very clearly in how people are arguing and behaving. Everyone is living in a nightmare.
They are. And as you said already, that if you put it in front of their eyes, They don't believe it because, I mean, there is a massive information download now, obviously with social media and everything as well, and there's all sorts of things going on and everything. But you know, I watched, and I put it on my wall, the film Grey Wolf, or whatever it's called, which is the story of Hitler that lived 18 years after World War II. And amazing film. And I'll tell you what, that moved me so much that I put it on the wall, because I thought people need to see this, you know. And I knew that he lived, and I knew that all the establishment knew that he was alive. But and they still tell people that he's dead. And if you ask people in the street, oh no, he died in a bunker. No, he didn't. He didn't die in a bunker. There's a film. Have a look at it. You know what I mean?
I agree. I totally agree. There's another great documentary on it called Hunting Hitler.
Yeah.
Which is about 6 parts. They track him to Argentina. They track Martin Gorn to Argentina.
Yeah.
No question. You know, there's people there who witnessed them. There's photographs in theatres and things. But the problem is, as we've said before, is this thing. You know, this. There's
almost a wall there. Do you know what I mean? You've got to climb over inside people.
Because that tells us, doesn't it, again, that people are so tied to their concepts that they're prepared to disown reality. You know, in order to, because belief is primary. You know, what people believe becomes reality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, if you name something, we'll give it this COVID name, we'll keep pushing that out every day.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a reality, and then everyone's going, COVID, it's everywhere, it's killing everybody.
But isn't that also a mirror image of what people do to themselves anyway, by actually pigeonholing things or putting things into pockets inside themselves rather than expanding themselves?
Well, exactly. You know, it's how people cope with fear. It's how people cope with the primary need to belong. You know, the need to belong will supersede our need to survive. So if you want to belong in the society, you don't speak out about it. You don't tell the truth, unless you're crazy like us. You know, you go along with. And, you know, we know how Nazi Germany started. We know the same sort of tactics are being played now. Yeah. You know, we know most people will go along and say, no, you're wrong. I don't believe that. I can't look. You present them with the evidence. They still say no. And then you realize, well, you know, I need to look after my own world. And, you know, maybe I've done my bit. And I can't keep saying, although I do keep saying, as I'm sure you do. But, you know, I don't know about you, but I go in cycles with it of going, well, I need to let go. I need to not be bothered about people. And I think then the love for people inside me comes up, and I think, no, I've got to keep pressing on, keep presenting.
I totally agree with you. Every day I wake up and I look at it personally, my own personal self. I look at this as a role that I have in this reality to expand people's. That's why I do this show, basically, to try and expand people's horizons, or try to get people to see things in a different way. And you know, it's down to the people whether they take that or not. There's a lot of people that I know that do agree with what I talk about, but you know, in any conversation, it's like the conversation we're having tonight. In something that we say will spark something within somebody that's watching or listening tonight that will create a different reality for them straight away, by actually thinking there's something that's been niggling them or wanting answers to, that then they find it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's right. You know, it's like what did Christ say about finding the lost sheep, going out for that one lost sheep. You know, there is that argument to it, but there's also the other thing about not casting your pearls, isn't there? You know, do I want to keep casting my pearls before people who aren't ready to hear it or want to jump down my throat if I do it? So there's also that. Sometimes you have to step back from the fray, don't you? Protect yourself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And that's paramount, because if you don't do that, you get drained very quickly and you can't do what you do. Do you know what I mean?
And also these days you get censored out of existence, don't you?
Well, I mean, they're not yet, but they are starting to. The next stage is to contrive us as domestic terrorists.
Well, I know that's already started in America, hasn't it?
Yeah. Melanie Kellaway says, radiate our light, expand our consciousness, serrate our own timeline, skip this dense energy. She says that in a knowing we can create our own reality, which is what I feel we're doing. I'm certainly doing.
I think, there is a
You're
kind
doing.
of a fork in the road, isn't there, between people at the moment? There's the division happening, and I think, for me, and I encourage all my clients to do this, meditation is key.
Yeah.
Deep meditation, really putting that in the middle of your life. I do between 1 and 4 hours a day, and I work extremely hard at meditation, and I see that that's what creates the inner shift. The self-inquiry practice I do, you do your bit, and then that I thought will start to dissolve, and it will return back to its source. As all the Advaita teachers teach, if you do your bit, eventually the divine will pull you in. You don't have to do it all. You do your bit. The divine will pull you back, and the ego and the ego will merge back into the self. That's the idea.
Yeah.
But
because
while we're still living in these separate egos, we've got a big problem.
Yeah, and those separate egos are paramount, because that comes down to the construction of what reality, what people tell you should be like, how you should look, the plastic surgery you need, the things you need that you don't. Do you know what I mean? In this reality, and divorcing yourself from actually yourself by actually buying things to make yourself feel good. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's right. And of course, in a way, the gift of these continuous lockdowns, the metaphor of it is we're locking you inside. So
because we are. I don't care what anyone says. We're in an open prison. It's just our own open prison.
But how we can get the best out of that is to go, well, hang on a minute. What does that mean? It means the place I've got to go is inside myself.
Yeah.
That's the gift of this time. If you see it for what it is spiritually, the prison doesn't have to be a prison where we suffer. We can go inside ourselves and become awake. And I think that's the gift of these times.
Absolutely. I'm very lucky, because I can still do what I do, and obviously do this as well, and many other things, and I write and do all sorts of stuff as well, like yourself. Because it is about keeping I'm feeling that I'm part of the big ball that's rolling at the moment. I mean, if we look at the expansion of what is happening here, and you go into the worst case scenarios, you go into places like Newcastle, Manchester, London, you got people with families, say they've got 2 or 3 kids, and the couple there, and they're obviously struggling financially, struggling mentally. This is a power keg sitting out there in people that is actually waiting to boil over, I feel.
Well, something's got to give at some point.
It has to give, absolutely. There's got to be a line crossed somewhere, because, and I feel personally that what Bonzo Boris, when he stands up on the 22nd, because this illusion, unfortunately, as you said, you're absolutely right, is the fact that people create their own illusions and whatever they want to believe in. But when they go and have their jabs, which I feel is absolutely, personally, very dangerous in its own self,
Me too, yeah.
and then they've had their jabs, and then they say, well, now we can go out, everything's going to open, and then it won't.
Well, this is the crazy thing, isn't it? People are still somehow labouring under the misapprehension. I've got my jab, suddenly the door's going to be open, the jail's open, and I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
No.
You're going to keep the carrot tangled. There'll be the next jab, the next thing, the next holiday. It'll be, there'll always be a reason to keep the situation going, because there's an agenda behind it.
And, there's quite a few already in the last week. There's quite a few Tory MPs that are actually starting to come on air and talk about the fact that this has got to stop.
Well, it's about bloody time, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
I mean, talk about dense consciousness. If we want to find some people with the most dense consciousness on the planet, you go look for a Tory MP.
Yeah.
These people are not awake. They may be clever, but they're not awake. And so it is this thing of, what's it going to take? I mean, today or yesterday I read, they're going to write do not resuscitate on the bed special people with special needs.
I've seen that.
Unbelievable.
It's disgusting.
Unbelievable.
It just,
like any bully, they'll keep bullying us until someone says it.
And even worse than that, 2 things I spoke about earlier on. One is no child No one under 18 should take a vaccine, and now they're going to trial vaccines on kids.
That's right. That was the other thing I saw. We both seen those two things.
That is disgusting. And the other thing is that, you know, we're gonna take all your civil liberties away. And when Boris stands there, really annoyed me. And on Wednesday, I really went to town on him. Is the fact he stood there in his press conference and said it is illegal to go on holiday.
These people are nuts.
Except, they're of course, completely.
They are going on holiday themselves. I think Hancock's about to go on holiday to Cornwall.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then you see they're saying, "Oh, no quarantine for big businessmen."
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. This virus now discriminates not just between whether you're sitting or standing up in a restaurant, but between the wealthy and the poor.
Yeah, because you know the road they're going down is that people will not. Only people who go on holiday are really rich, wealthy people. The only people that drive on motorways are rich and out and viable people. Do you know what I mean? It's very elitist, all elitist.
Well, I think it's, you know, if people don't wake up now, I mean, I despair, to be honest.
I know, I do understand where you sit. I really do.
You know, seeing also that Bill Gates now the biggest private land and over in the US.
Yeah, and
you know,
all he does is he takes his experimental drugs to Africa and gives it to them all the time. And
disables children by the tens of.
And there he is spouting about climate change and all sorts is the next big thing. You know, this guy went around 2015, told everyone about coronavirus.
Well, he said we can reduce global population by 10 to 15% using vaccines.
Yeah,
that's what he said. He said in a TED talk, you know, he was saying, we're gonna murder a lot of people.
Absolutely, and you know as well as I do. When I talk about it, some people are like, "Oh, you're mad." But Agenda 21, which is very much about the depopularization, 95% of the population, I said, no, that never happened.
Well, it's already started, I'm afraid.
Of course it is. There's 4.5 million people waiting for serious operations, cancer, heart disease, God knows what else.
Yeah. And this is the other thing, isn't it? When you say to people who are COVID obsessed, they say, "Oh my God, you know, we got to have our vaccination." I say, well, hang on a minute. What about all the people who die from flus and pneumonias and addictions and heart and cancer? Why aren't those trotted out on the media every day?
Absolutely.
They're bigger killers than this bug. So why are you not seeing that? Well, because people only see what's put in front of their faces.
Yeah, and they don't ask questions. I mean, it's interesting. There was a series, I talked about it on Wednesday, called It's a Sin, which was young gay people in London. It's fictional, catching HIV and AIDS and all sorts. Because when it's no good, I talk on this show about the fact that, you know, there's 131,000 people that's died of suicide this year alone in the world so far. We're only a couple of weeks into February, but you know, then obviously people say, well, that's not relevant because it's not a disease, as you say. But when you look at the figures, I mean, people think that HIV and AIDS is gone. It's not here. You know, it's been eradicated. But when you look at the figures, 206,000 people have died this year alone of HIV and AIDS.
You know, which tells us, doesn't it? Again, the whole thing is about this is a war of perception.
Yes.
You know, what you perceive is your reality. So if, you know, all you can see on the media, everything every day is this one thing, and you're not being shown all the other things, which actually are far worse than this one thing, old is the worst thing in the world, which it isn't, then you don't see it. So, you know, you say to someone, well, what about all these other things? They haven't got an answer.
No. You see, Chris Whitty and that Valance that stand there, they're two people that are earning a multi fat wallet from in pharma, and sure, without their jobs and that as well, as does most of the cabinet, to be honest. And you know, if we had a government, when he says we care, he's lying to you. We care. He's lying to your face. And you know, when they bring up charts, if they were really not lying, they would bring charts up and say, these are the people that died of cancer. These are the people that died of this. These are the people that died of that. and we'd see a different picture. At the same time, it's taken all this time, a year, for them to grasp the fact, unlike in New Zealand, where they shut their borders immediately. It's taken them 1 year, and I spoke about it loads of times, the fact that 100,000 people are still coming to this country a day. And now their brilliant brain idea is the fact that we must shut the borders. If you come from 33 red countries, then you have to isolate, and it's going to cost you £1,700, by the way, if you do that. So you've got your holiday, but now you're going to be crucified for having a holiday, because you have to go and pay £1,700 to go into quarantined hotel, a camp, basically. And now, if you don't actually tell them that you come from and they find out, then you could go to prison for 10 years. 10 years.
They are having an absolute laugh at people's expense. They are saying and getting away with anything they want because there hasn't been enough resistance. They are pushing the envelope all the time, and people are just laying down and rolling over. Well,
can you imagine, Simon, being in the cabinet boardroom with the cabinet ministers? They're all having a bloody good laugh.
I think that's right. I think what happened to honour, what happened to a politician falling on his sword if he did the things Hancock and the others are doing and giving all contracts to their friends. What happened to those days? Okay, it wasn't perfect back in the day, but at least there were some politicians around who had a sense of legitimate shame.
Yeah.
There are none anymore. Doesn't seem to be anybody. They've all sold out.
I totally agree. I think they all stink. They all stink. And even like Labour leader, it might as well just go and sit on the other bench, basically.
Well, I would say he's an enemy in the camp of the Labour, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not. Look, he is somebody that I don't know what his agenda is within inside himself, but he's alienated himself completely from his party. And if you're in opposition, and I know that the whole political system's wrong and it needs changing and everything, and the whole system is archaic and out of date. But if you are a party that is in opposition, surely you're going to stand there and talk about some of the things we talk about, aren't you?
Well, not if the reason you're in that game is for your own personal
absolutely ambition, yeah, that's personal, absolutely
your own. Support Israel. You're not allowed to say that anymore. And lining your own pocket. If that's your reason for being, then I'm afraid you've lost all scruples and integrity. And I think that's where we are.
Yeah, I do believe, to be fair, that there are some in there that are not doing that. But I do feel that they're not a strong enough voice within their own parties. I actually feel the best thing can happen, realistically, is this lot's booted out and a unity government put in place.
But who's going to do the booting out? Because,
well, precisely. That is a problem. Nobody can do it, can they?
Doesn't appear to be that way. No.
So the end result is the fact that you're gonna, this boiling vat that is a volcano that's bubbling away is going to blow at some point, because I'm not condoning people rioting and things like that, but when people are pushed to corners, animals lash out. Do you know what I mean?
Eventually, but it seems like we're being pushed into a corner and
staying there,
imploding rather than exploding.
Yeah. And does that come down to the apathy that we carry as British people, that we do not actually rebel? We might say lots of things, but we actually don't do anything about it.
It seems to be, I don't know what's happened to the British, but it seems to be, obviously there's much more energy in Europe and mainland Europe, in Britain.
Yeah.
Seems to be, for whatever reason, the old serf mentality is still, doffing your cap to his lordship is still prominent in Britain.
I know.
People are lazy. They don't have the energy to get up and do anything. I don't, it's partly a mystery. Not quite sure why Britain is.
Yeah, but does it? Do you think one of the problems is that we become so multiculturalized?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't thought about that aspect of it. I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure about that, Clint. And I think there's some deep malaise in Britain. I think it's partly because, we've always had it as a country in many ways.
Yeah, but we still have people in this country believing we have an empire.
Well, that's right. People are acting like they have an empire, and in a way we do. We have the City of London, don't we?
Yeah.
We have this fiefdom in the middle of the country, which is a law unto itself. So that whole thing of empire and offshore accounting and the crown, all of that is still around.
And, I used to work in London. I was a contract manager and in Lewisham and Hackney. And I got to know a few people up there. And I met people that worked in Canary Wharf, the money capital, if you like. And they used to say to me that we're going in tomorrow, Monday, say, and they say, I have no idea what we're doing because it's all out of control.
Yeah. Oh, it's completely out of control. Chaos. And again, another time when, after Margaret Thatcher, when mortgages were plummeting, where the bankers were laughing all the way to the bank, and the man on the street was impoverished.
Yeah.
Same thing, except now we've taken it to another level. Now this is global. Now there's a deliberate wrecking of small and medium-sized businesses, a clear move to kind of a Chinese-style communism.
Yes.
I mean, I think that, we've heard for years, haven't we, about the collapse of the American empire and the rise of the Chinese empire. And I think what's probably happened is, Europe's gone along and said, well, Chinese are coming, we better make a deal. How can we pacify them? How can we make the most of this? I know, we'll go with their communism and, we'll look after the top level bureaucrats and bankers and, royalty. And we're gonna try this Chinese system. I think that's what's being brought in.
Mm.
And I think people are still believing, everything's going to turn a corner. It's going to be okay. The lockdowns will end. I don't see any sign of that. I think there's huge naivety in that.
Well, the thing is that what happened is that March 8th, kids go back to school, and that in April and potentially in May, we'd probably have pubs open. God, I looked at that day. I do like a pint, then what we find is we get to September and it'll be going back into lockdown again.
Of course it will. There's always going to be something. I mean, that's been the pattern so far, isn't it? Oh no, it's the next thing. And
yeah, but how much?
Ready.
This is a $64,000 question, Simon. Is how I know what your answer might be to this because we sort of looked at it in a way, but imagine you give these people their freedom after they've been locked up for a year, basically, on and off, and they open their businesses, and they're open their businesses for 2 or 3 months, and obviously still have to wear masks, still have to social distance, and all that rubbish, and then come September, they're saying, oh well, we're going in lockdown again. Do you not feel at that point? Well, there's two things, really. The fact is what I said already. When people have had the vaccine, they think that's it. Well, I'm fine now. Well, actually, it's proven that it can't. It's really useless.
Won't change anything.
No. And then, they say, right, you're free now. You can go and do these things and all sorts. And then they say, no, you're not. September, we're going to shut it all down again. I think there's going to be backlash, massive backlash.
I would love to think you're right, Clint. I'm just not sure you are, because I think what's happening is...
Or is that me dreaming?
I think you could be in the dream, but I think the nightmare is that people are getting more and more tired. They're getting more and more socialized into this. They're getting more and more used to it. They're accepting it more and more. They're putting up with, and the government's rubbing its hands with glee, as is the World Economic Forum. Yeah. Yes, we can get away with this. I'm not so sure about that. I think people are kind of downing tools. I'm not sure what it's going to take. Some almighty shock. People are going to have to hear something You know, whether it gets down to the level of the child abuse in the world or whatever it is going to wake people up. Something needs to happen.
Well, I mean, that's going on a constant basis, isn't it? That all that dark, satanic, ritualistic
but people
abuse.
Are still in denial about that. People still haven't really made that.
Well, I mean, you know yourself in the field you work in, we live in a society that they're glamorizing and almost, well, they're putting in, the best way to hide things is put it in front of your face. So, you know, pedophilia, they're trying to make into as something that's accepted in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we call it hidden in plain sight, don't we?
Yeah.
And someone asked me the other day, actually, I was having this conversation. They said, well, if it's true that there's a plan to depopulate, and you know, and I said, well, they're telling us there's books out there. They're actually hidden in plain sight. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's an actual conspiracy. You know, and this guy said to me, well, why would they do that if they've got this heinous plan? And I said, it's very simple. I said, do you ever see the film The Exorcist? And he said, yeah. I said, do you remember that if the priest asks the demon's name, the demon under spiritual law is obliged to tell them. And you remember the story of Job in the Bible, where Job is tested by Satan. Yeah. Satan has to go to God first and ask permission. Okay, so that's where the spiritual laws kind of work. It's like this has the dark forces have to declare what they're doing. Yeah. That's the law. You don't get away without declaring what you're doing. So they have to put it out in front of us. But still, by some miracle, we will not see it. A bit like the Jimmy Savile thing was there in plain sight for years. People didn't see it. Well, you know, it's semi-conscious rather than fully conscious. I think, you know, someone laughed at me when I said about the demon example, but it's absolutely true. You know, this is spiritual law. We can't get away from it. They have to tell us what they're doing. People don't understand that.
Well, that's. I'll just read this comment, and I'll come on to an interesting thing that what you just mentioned. Stella says the migrants that's still coming across the channel get to go into hotels and camps for free, and they're actually being vaccinated as well.
Well, I wonder what the vaccine's doing to them. You know, I think, you know, the whole vaccine business, the whole panic of rushing towards. Why would anyone?
In 5 months, Simon. 5 months they created this.
It's experimental.
Of course it is.
So why would you put your whole life at risk for an experiment for something that is 99.5 plus chance of you surviving if you get it?
Yeah.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I know.
Well, the only reason is because you've been terrified to death and you're believing everything you've been told.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I totally 100% agree with you. They're not coming anywhere near. I'm not going for tests. I'm not going for a vaccine. I don't want any of that shit. Do you know what I mean? You keep it to yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Let the people who are putting it forward take it.
Yes, absolutely. But nobody knows what, as you say, what's going to happen to them. I mean, you know, Dr. Coleman, who's been on, I can't remember his first name now.
Coleman.
Sorry?
Vernon Coleman.
Yeah, Vernon Coleman, that's it. Yeah, amazing man, very astute, very intelligent, wrote hundreds of books. It can be a bit maverick and all sorts, but, you know, he talks a lot of sense. He comes from a perspective that this is all absolute rubbish.
Yeah, I totally agree. But of course, you know, I had a wrangle with a nurse, old friend of mine, the other day. Oh, but we're here saving lives, and I thought, well, I can't get into this with you because
but that's your job. That's your job. That's what you chose to do.
Not your job to put DNR on the end of beds and not resuscitate people.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not. No.
But I think what I'm saying is, if you're a nurse and you're in a hospital where people are getting sick, of course you're going to go, well, yeah, this is absolutely real, it's happening. I understand that.
Yeah.
The problem is we have to understand that COVID is a concept, it's a label. You know, we don't know what it is. My understanding is it hasn't actually been isolated yet. But we've had this name thrown at us again and again and again. So we don't actually know, unless you're an immunologist or a virologist, how do you know what someone's got?
Well, absolutely. Because you know as well as I do, Simon, that we carry hundreds of viruses anyway.
That's right.
When we go and kiss somebody, we pass viruses on to each other.
Exactly.
But, you know, we have an immune system that's there to deal with that. The worrying factor is that if we're all stuck indoors in our own bubble,
we can't be healthy. Absolutely.
we become unhealthy because our immune system's not being tested.
Well, that's right. That's right. It reminded me I need to walk tomorrow. I've walked for a while now.
Absolutely. Walking's always good.
But it is that thing, you know, I guess I'm making the same point as I did at the beginning. If you drill a concept into someone's head and they take it on, it becomes a reality.
Yeah.
And then they won't look at other ideas. Oh, no, I don't want to look at your evidence. This nurse actually said to me, I don't look at anything else. I don't want to look at anything else. And I said, well, surely your job is to know what you're doing in your job, therefore be open-minded to do. No, I don't want to look. Well, there's not much you can do with that.
Yeah, but that's nearly as bad as the people that say, well, I don't watch TV, I don't read newspapers, and or any of that. And I turned around to him, I said, well, you obviously won't know what happens if anything happens, do you? Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You know, of course it matters. The problem we got today's society, Simon, there's too many people that are not interested in anyone else whatsoever. They're self-centered. They're stuck in their own bubble. They're just not interested. And, you know, that's why it's nice. It's refreshing sometimes watch RT or Al Jazeera News. We actually see other stories going on around the world. Because there's no British people involved, you don't hear about it.
Yes, yeah. It's good to get out of that bubble sometimes.
Oh, God, yes. Because it's garbage, you know.
A lot of people know now that BBC is a propaganda arm of the government.
Oh, completely. Absolutely. And you know, well, they're all tied with the same brush. And then you get other players there that seem like they're standing on the other side in what I would call what we're talking about. Piers Morgan challenges and all sorts, but he's an antagonist. He's part of he's paid up member of what they're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's not a conscious individual. He likes to fight, and sometimes he's useful to challenge people, but he doesn't really understand what's going on. He's buying the myth of, you know, he's in the game. He's got his part in the game.
Yeah,
it's the game.
It is, and the thing is, that is the most important thing. And as weird as it sounds, but somebody said to me a long time, I used to go around the world doing talks on aliens and all sorts of other things and that hollow earth and everything. Somebody came up to me one day and said, is the earth a zoo? A long time ago they come up to me and I said, that's quite an interesting concept actually. and you know, I would say it is, because you know, the technology is what I was coming to, the technological advancement that we've had. And you're talking about AI. Now, I was talking about on Wednesday, because this guy is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger in our reality, Elon Musk, who seems to he can do anything. Doesn't, you know, he's performing Neuralink surgery on people's heads, and putting 10p pieces in with strands where they then don't have lots of illnesses, because it all goes.
Well, I don't want to. I think the madness of all these things. We look back at the James Bond villains, which the sort of characters we're dealing with now. They all want to live forever. You know, it's like, you know, the ego is like a bubble. You blow it up and you blow it up and you blow it up, and it either bursts and come back to reality, or you've got this huge bubble of ego, which a lot of these guys have, and they reach the kind of outer limit of the bubble. But they don't see they're trapped within a bubble.
Yeah, but I don't even think he's from this reality. I think he's from the future.
I don't know. I know he's building cars in Somerset these days, isn't he?
He is building cars in Somerset. He's building. He's doing all sorts of stuff. Wanting to put people on Mars, and he's building massive amounts of miles and miles and miles of tunnels underneath LA for a new roadway, and he wants to build a car that lifts off. Yeah.
But I think what I'm saying in my balloon analogy is that the balloon is the limit of the ego world. And these people are at the limit of the ego world, okay, creating this, the Mars and whatever, but they're not going to where the really important thing is, which is inside themselves.
No, they're not.
That's the freedom. It's not expanding your ego.
they're getting people to buy. It's like an advert on television. They're getting people to buy something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not real.
That's right. Buying the illusion.
Buying the illusion.
Everybody on the illusion. The illusion at the moment is a vaccine is going to return everything to normality. That's a complete lie.
Yeah.
People are telling you. It's all buying this illusion because the seeker is always looking for something. We think about the idea of the seeker. It's like, wandering around looking for my glasses, or they do sometimes, wandering into the bathroom and the kitchen, the bedroom, where are these glasses? And then some kind soul tells me they're on top of my head.
Yeah, I know.
That's the seeker, isn't it? I'm seeking something which I already am, I've already got, but I'm going out there seeking it. Well, that's all these people are doing. They're seeking themselves without realizing it, through making their mark on the world, becoming bigger and better. But as it says in the old Bible, great men weigh less than a breath. Yes. They'll be forgotten about at some point.
Yes.
It doesn't take you anywhere. That's the insanity of the Bond villain type. It's not going to give them what they want eventually.
Yeah.
It will never satisfy. Success at the end of the day, it will never satisfy.
Yeah, but what's success gauged on? That's the thing. Success has to be gauged on what we feel within inside ourselves, that we want to achieve within inside ourselves once we open the doors to ourselves of what we are.
Well, it's often for many of these people, the big egos, that success is built on personal inadequacy, isn't it?
Mm.
Feelings of inadequacy, therefore, I've got to have a bigger outer world, got to have a bigger car, bigger house, I've got to be number one. All, and I've certainly seen this many times as a therapist, all founded on this idea that I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Well, if you find your true self,
but when you lose it, like I have in my life, Simon, quite a few times I've lost everything. You suddenly realise that you don't need any of this.
You don't need anything.
You don't need anything. You don't need nothing. And you just need to be at peace. You need to be at peace. And when people speak to me and they come on the phone and they're all panicking about COVID and all sorts, and they're saying, well, you're always so calm and you're always so positive. Because that's me. That's what I am. That's my world.
Well, you've got that connection, with your own soul, haven't you? You remember who you are, and that's the key.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, while the ego is still, over many lifetimes, in the outward focused trajectory into the world, it's never going to come to that place. We have to turn backwards, turn around, go back into our own heart, start realizing the light within us. Then we realize, as you're saying, we don't need anything else. We never did. It's an illusion. It will never make us happy. Happiness is actually, trite as it sounds, it's already built inside us.
Yes, it is. Absolutely, 100% built inside us. You're absolutely right. And
we have to realize it.
And that is what people need to realize, but they don't look at themselves because they want to go outside, because there's so many things playing on their perception of what they need that they don't.
Exactly. It's all, as we've said, it's all perception, isn't it? It's all perception of this or that's going to do it for me. This is going to make me whole. It's all a lie that we're conditioned to believe, and it's a lie that at the moment is hugely prevalent all over the globe.
There is. I do feel that there is a growing army of people, a vast amount of people that are waking up. But the problem is that it's those people waking up are fragmented because it needs some joining. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's true, but I think also it needs that real understanding that it isn't out there; it's inside you. And I think realizing that takes a lot. As you pointed out, sometimes we have to lose everything to get to that point.
Absolutely.
If we're still on that outward trajectory and life is still working for us, then why would we bother?
Yeah.
And I think this
we're
is
not.
the gift of,
you know this as well as I do, Simon. We're not on this planet with the souls that we have within the bodies we're in. Even though we all signed up to be at this particular time at this particular point. We're not in these bodies to be in purgatory, to be in pain. we're here to have a joyous experience. And, you know, sometimes we have to go through all good, bad, or indifferent, but we're here to understand and go through any karmic vows that we need to shed. And we're here to also, if you like, face the fears that we've had for many lives as well. Because I always say, with the end result of everything we've been right now.
I agree, and there's a phrase which I can't think of the exact words now, but something Carl Jung said, something to paraphrase it. He said, you know, disaster is the great gift of the unconscious.
Yeah.
You know, when life crashes and burns around us, that's actually our opportunity. Not to the ego-limited self, but to the soulful part of us that wants to remember its own wholeness.
But you see, the problem why people don't look at that is because they can't hold it, they can't see it, they can't touch it, not physically. And a lot of them can't sense it because they're closed down. And I do feel they're closed down because that comes down to the biological input, because there's a massive thing that goes on between soul and body when the soul comes into body, which can, and I'm sure you know this yourself with the people that you've seen over the years, that causes a massive conflict within the person, within their human form, as well as their soul themselves, in trying to fit and mold these two things together. Do you know what I mean? Because one of the things you find in reality is a disjointedness of being connected from inner to out to out to inner.
I think you know, the hardest thing for people, and I see it on the therapy journey, and I've been through it myself, is to face their own emptiness.
Yeah.
You know, that's what most people are running from when, as you were saying, they're going out looking in the world, thinking this is going to do it for them. It's a running away from their own emptiness. And we all have to get to a point where we face ourselves. You know, we face this despair. Sometimes circumstances force it upon us, as you say. Other times, you know, it's something else that might make us turn within, but have to face the pain of our own emptiness. You know, certainly with therapy clients, what I see is many clients feel empty because they didn't experience the feeling of the necessary developmental early stage of mirroring from their parents. You know, they didn't have the mother cooing over the cot, making them, giving them identity, reflecting them back to themselves. This often creates depression and emptiness in clients. You know, and in therapy, you have to be able to start with help walking through that.
Yeah.
Face that empty, you know, to see that actually in your emptiness can actually be a great fullness. But these are the paradoxes that people have to face. And of course, you know, whenever people are running off looking for something in the world to make themselves feel better, what they're basically saying is, I refuse to face myself.
Yes, totally. And in a way, being conditioned to not look at yourself, and my worry, my concern particularly, is the next generation that's coming up, because obviously we've got somebody called Gavin Williamson, who's a complete dickhead, basically. Should be horsewhipped down the road, because if they cared, then we wouldn't still be talking about people having laptops in houses and things. It will be done. There'd be channels on TV that'd be there for them. There'd be question answer. There'd be all manner of different things that they can do. You know, this, and I'm talking about the generation of, say, well, there's two generations here. There's one that is going to be the I would say the 13 to 16 and upwards generation, which are lost individuals. These people, as you know yourself, are suffering huge without this, but they're suffering anxiety, stress. They're suffering terrible things within inside themselves that nobody talks to them about.
I know, and of course there's not the funding these days for support.
No, because if you go, is it CAMS they call it? If you want to go to CAMS, where there's like 14-month waiting list or whatever.
Yeah, I think, as you said earlier, the problem is, you know, there's nothing in our training or our society to support the inner journey. Everything is outward focused. Everything is about getting on in the world. Everything is about not valuing your core self. It's about looking for yourself somewhere else. And that whole ethos is, in my view, entirely mistaken.
Greed. I mean, in lots of ways, what we're sitting in a place that Atlantis sat in once, where it imploded. It imploded on itself.
Yes.
It turned people against people.
Well, that's my understanding of that era, and I think, you know, we're having people turn against each other now quite maliciously and deliberately.
Oh,
and,
terrible! I mean, you know, I got a Twitter account, but I never go on it because it's just full of abuse.
Well, you know, when the internet first started, I remember, I think I was on an AOL website where I've got my email, and I remember reading this article and then seeing this thread where, with about 2 sentences, people are effing and blinding at each other, C word. What is going on here? And then you realize how many people are in such a sad state mentally and so full of anguish and hatred, and you realize actually you're quite healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
You know, but I think this degeneration into actually called bigotry, isn't it? You know, someone else's views not allowed. Mine's the best. And when people do that to me, Clint, now when I talk about this stuff on threads, I did it on the Sunday Times thread recently, which probably wasn't a good idea, and I got savaged no end about this great reset and everything. And I just called them out and said, "Look, do you realise this is called bigotry? Do you want to be a bigot? Is this who you want to be? Because this is what it is. You know, if you can't have a society where people are allowed to express their views without this hatred and vileness and disrespect, then we've really lost it, I'm afraid."
Yeah, we have. Well, we lost all morals, discipline, understanding, at the highest threads of the order of what we are within inside ourselves. I wrote a post, interestingly, I talked about earlier on, just I put it on as a bit of a laugh, really, but I put it on saying that I was thinking of starting a citizens' party because I'm fed up with this government and Parliament itself. And, you know, I put it on as a bit of a jokey thing, really. But there are some people that took that as a literal, do you know what I mean? And not attacked, but said things that were negative. When you know, they don't need to be negative. Do you know what I mean?
I do know. I know.
It's just a concept. It's just an idea. And if we're going to kill something at its first point of access, it's never going to happen. You're never going to pull people together.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. And I always say, you know, when I'm writing poems or stories or whatever, people jump on straight away. It doesn't happen often, but they do, to criticize. I always say, you know, Rumi the poet said, "Get my words when they're fresh like bread, because soon they'll be stale." Yeah. You know, in other words, I'm not a static object. I'm not a person who with fixed ideas. My ideas can change in minutes. I might write something completely opposite the next day.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, I'm not a fixed entity. If you treat me as an ego, as a fixed entity, then you're not understanding who I am or who anyone else is.
Absolutely.
But that threads deteriorate. People treat anything anyone says as a fixed idea. Well, sometimes it's just a moment in time.
Yeah.
It's total madness.
I totally agree with you. I absolutely totally agree with you. And you know, that's the important, this what you're talking about is the crux of the whole conversation we're having, which really is moving the roots of yourself into the understanding of being flexible, being outwardly understanding with yourself, but inwardly opening.
Well, actually, you know, you have to, that's right, you have to get to the point of realizing, as the great mystic would say, I'm not even a human being. I am the self. We all are, you know.
I actually tell people that I was born the sun. My soul was born the sun. That's where I can, when people say where you come from, I say I was born the sun. And people say, no, you can't be born the sun because it's way too hot. But it's only hot because it's the illusion of what you've been told. Because it's a bit like a fridge at home. It's quite cool inside.
Well, I think it's good to you know, really understand. And as you're right, the sun is the symbol of the self. You know, we are this self. You know, we are not this little fragile human ego. We appear as such and believe we are, but we're much greater than that.
when you've had the greatest civilizations on this earth, so particularly look at Egypt that performed brain surgery, that had extraterrestrial help, that was way beyond the realms of where we sit now. Yes, all right, they're bloodthirsty, a lot of them, but some of them wasn't, and they worship the sun, because in lots of ways they mirrored what they had in their soul.
Yeah. Well, sun worshippers, as you know, is as old as the hills, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and pagans, druids, whoever, Egyptians, everybody has understood, and Christ, the central place of the sun in the cosmos. You know, but the sun is a symbol for the self. But we have to start waking up, that we're, rather than having these stupid, deteriorating squabbles on the internet, that's actually a total betrayal of who we are, who we were meant to be, what our destiny is. You know, we have to merge back with the self that we are. But to do that, we've got to turn inwards and stop looking in the world, stop looking in the realm of reflected light.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to satisfy. It just blinds us and seduces us. It casts a spell on us. You know, I wrote a post recently saying, you know, touch the people that, you know, it's like, think of this as a spell that's been cast over humanity. We're under a mass psychosis because a spell's been cast on top of us. And many people believe the spell. They're under the illusion of the spell. It's like eating the apple in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
People, so what? People are under the illusion of the spell. Oh, everything's going to be better soon. Well, I'm sorry.
But that is the pill that they swallowed. The Matrix scenario, the pill they swallowed in relation to believing everything that exists around them is absolutely real when it isn't. Because everything is movable, everything can be changeable, and these people say nothing ever changes. They lie to their face, because they change constantly within inside themselves. They change, you know, they change their mind. I'm not going to work today. I'm going to work today, or I'm going to eat this, or I'm not going to eat this, or I go to the toilet, or I don't go to the toilet. Do you know what I mean? They're all, if you go down to brass tacks, they're simple actions we take, but they're change factions within inside ourselves, aren't they?
Exactly. To think we're a thing called the static ego is absolute nonsense.
It's rubbish.
It's a concept. It's another concept, and it's a very important concept because we all fall for it.
And I do like your posts as well, young man, and I do like your poetry. It's absolutely amazing.
Getting better. I'm practicing. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to have to go in a minute. I'm sure you've got another guest.
I have. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I've kept you on longer than I thought. But I mean,
no, good. I'm just coughing a bit because I was talking for an hour and a half non-stop with these clients earlier.
I know.
My throat, right thing in my windpipe, where it kind of doesn't work very well after a while.
Well, I'll tell you what, Simon. It's an absolute pleasure and honour to have you on my show. I think you talk absolute pearls of wisdom, and you know, one day when we can go out and have a beer in a pub, I hope we're going to meet up and have a beer, because you're a fascinating person.
2068. I'll see you then.
I'll be in my Zimmer frame, and we'll have a Guinness in a workmen's club.
Oh, fair enough. I will look forward to that.
Or will it be our next incarnation?
I think it's more likely to be that, Clint, to be fair. I don't think going anywhere faster than this one.
I think you're a brilliant guy, Simon. I really do. And I know that people watching this and listening to this tonight love this conversation, because it brings things into a balance, and that's what it comes down to. And the people and the loads of people that watch this afterwards in the catch up and all sorts as well. So you've been brilliant. If anyone wants to contact you, you're on Facebook, aren't you, Simon Heathcote?
I'm on Facebook, and I've got a work page on Facebook, Soulvision, soulvision1word.co.uk. I've also got a website under the same name with the contact form, so yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. I'd love to get you on again in a not too distant future, young man. You're always fascinating to talk to. I have a lot of time for you.
Thank you, Clint. Well, the conversation's flowed very well between us. So
well, it always does. And you know, the thing is that I've got no questions here for you. It's just it's just you just run with it.
Yeah, it's easy and fluid. Just how life should be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Simon. I'll let you go, and thank you very much. You've been really, really good tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Finn. I'll speak to you again.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Simon. Bye. Right. There he is, the amazing Simon Heathcote. I'll tell you what a lovely man he is. Immense and speaks absolute wisdom. He's absolutely right. And I hope you all enjoyed that. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We have got coming up next. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but it's going to be very, very interesting. But we've got Dick Weiner. Now, Dick Weiner was somebody that came on the show as a window cleaner with his pole and all sorts, and tell us all about his window cleaning antics. That has actually changed profession. I don't know what's happened, but he actually has been obviously signed up to somebody because he has his own show, Dick Weiner, and he wants us to link into his show tonight in relation to interviewing Boris Johnson, apparently. So he's going to be ringing very shortly, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but it'll be very interesting as it does. And and while we're waiting for him to call, just a reminder that Wednesday, there you are. I will tell you about Wednesday shortly. Hello, is that Mr. Dick Weiner?
Good evening, Clint. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Dick?
I'm fine. I'm about to start the show.
Are you? And I'm interested that the last time I spoke to you, you were a window cleaner, and now you have a show. And how did that all come about?
Oh, I was cleaning some windows of some producer at the BBC, and he was taken aback by my humour and my way of putting words and what have you, and he said, "I may have a job for you."
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so I've now got a show called The Dick Weiner Show.
Wow. And is that on, what channel is that on? Is that a channel we know?
That's on BBC 4.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. And you're in your studio at the moment, are you?
Yes, I'm in the studio at the moment. I've got someone waving to me at the moment.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Right, we are now live.
Well, here we are. This is a show within a show tonight. What about this? And I'll let you carry on and find out who your guest is.
Right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Dick Weiner Show. Tonight, my guest is our very own Prime Minister,
wow.
Mr. Boris Johnson. Good evening, Boris. Good evening, Dick. How are you feeling after your how can I put it, your dice with COVID, dreaded COVID? Yes, I'm feeling a lot better now, yes. It was touch and go at times, yes.
And
how was your trip? I take it you rode to the studios on your bike to get there. You rode on your bike, did you? Yes. I like to get fit, you see. I was a little confused. Yes? Why were you a little confused? Well, a bit of mistaken identity, I think, because someone was shouting at me. Dick Head. They kept shouting. I thought they meant somebody else. You know, but no, apparently they thought I was Dick Head, whoever he is. Yes. You recently had a trip to Scotland. How was that trip? Yeah, the trip was fine. Apart from that awful whinging Jimmy woman. You mean Nicola Sturgeon? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, awful woman. Fancy being named after the very last fish. So, what do you plan on doing? Well, let's turn this a little bit. Talk me through your evening. When you finish at the House of Commons and you get home, what do you do? Well, I open the front door and I walk in and I kiss the wife and I then go and have a shower, you know, wash the house in the commons off again, you know, and then I'll go there and have a cup of tea and I have some dinner and I sit and watch the very informative BBC News. That's what. So you watch the BBC News. You don't watch anything else. You don't watch Sky. Or you don't watch anything. No, don't watch those. Or propaganda channels. They are. You know, the BBC is one for me. It's the news slogan, isn't it?
Okay, Dick.
Well, Boris.
Dick, can you ask him about Dominic Cummings?
Boris, right. We have on the phone here, we have somebody, it's like a show on a show. Mine has this show, and he's going to ask me some questions, and I'm going to put them to you, and he's going to have some of his listeners probably sending some questions through.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Yes. Right, go ahead, Clint. What's your first question?
Dominic Cummings. Why did you let Dominic Cummings stay with you for so long?
Well, he didn't stay in my house, if that's what you mean.
But why didn't you sack him? Why didn't you sack him?
Well, I want to sack him because he would cause too much trouble, you see, within the ranks. And, so, very cleverly, cunningly, went around it the other way, you see. We got him to basically sack himself, you know. He sort of resigned himself, you see. We put him in such a position he didn't have a choice. So that's a far better way to get rid of him. He was an absolute pain in the arse. He thought he run the place. Blah, blah, blah.
What wasn't it very interesting that the fact that he didn't do anything when he went up to Derbyshire or wherever he went?
He went up to Derbyshire, I think, to go see an optician or whatever, because he's half blind anyway, this silly fool.
And why did you give him a £50,000 pay rise?
Well, that was misinterpreted. That was it wasn't a pay rise. Saying, right, now you've got it. Now piss off.
Can Prime Minister say piss off?
Well, it kind of likes to hear me, yes, but not on in front of cameras and things like that. That just wouldn't.
That wouldn't be cricket, would it?
It wouldn't. Fundamentally, it wouldn't. No.
And
I do love that word, fundamental.
Yeah, I know. You like unprecedented as well, don't you?
Unprecedentedly fundamental. Yeah.
And do you not have any remorse or any understanding of the pain?
I used to like watching that TV series, but then the actor died, didn't he? So we don't have any more of that, do we?
Aren't you guilty of anything? Can you not admit you got anything wrong in this pandemic?
Yeah, I put the wrong tire pressures in my bike. That's not a bumpy ride.
and you were caught 7 miles from Downing Street on your bike when you told everyone else to stay at home.
Exercising, you see, I'm now to exercise, you know.
Yeah, but it's 7 miles on a push bike.
Yeah, I'm fit, Prime Minister, you see.
And do you have any sympathy for anyone out there that disagrees with you?
No, I don't. Well, on occasion, because I'm a human being as well, you see, just like everybody else. And, you know, and prone to make an occasional mistake or two. But as far as the COVID system is concerned, there's been no mistakes at all. We've had COVID and that's it.
But, you know,
there's no mistake in saying we had it, so we've got it.
Yeah, but isn't it being used for the last year to keep people locked up in their own open prison in their house?
No, of course it's not. No, of course it's not. I see many cars on the road now, as I have done, ever have done. So people just aren't not taking much notice, are they?
And you've got a very important day coming up on the 22nd of February where you're going to tell people your roadmap. Is that like something like a mat on the floor that you put cars on, or something like that?
Probably I thought my very important day was going to be my birthday. Roadmap, yeah. I know I've got plenty of them. I've got roadmap of the Yorkshire Dales, and I've got roadmap of the Southwest, you know, at Cornwall and places like that.
And yeah, but you have got an important press conference on the 22nd to tell people how they're going to get out of this, because, you know, at the moment you've got people baying for your blood, haven't you?
What in my blood? After a night, every night at the House of Commons. No, they wouldn't want my blood after that.
Well, I suppose they wouldn't.
I see what you mean. But we'll see how things go on the week of the 22nd.
Well, yes. And you know, I know, you know, obviously, I think one of the things is the fact that, you know, you're quite a jovial character, and a lot of people call you bonkers, Boris, because you like people liking you and all sorts. It must be really hard to be in a situation where people don't like you.
Well, I'm not in a position to answer that properly, you see, because I'm in a position as Prime Minister. Prime Minister's job is not to be liked by everyone. It's his job to run the country. Whether he does a bad job or a good job in people's eyes, it doesn't matter. But as long as he's doing his job, he's doing his term.
Right. And I've heard that you, in your hobby is building double deckers and painting them.
I build. No, that's slightly wrong. I build things out of double deckers. You know, the confectionery, the sweet double deckers. I build things out of them.
And
yeah, I built model railways out of double deckers. You know.
Wow. And you know, you do you get
just one problem though is they do it in the winter because in the summer they melt.
Well, yeah, of course. And obviously your day must be very busy. You must be up very early in the morning, Prime Minister, and going to bed very late at night.
Well, I do sometimes, yeah, but sometimes you know, like all good film actors, they have a double. So if I want to sleep off about 4:30 in the afternoon, my double takes over, you see.
Well, that's interesting. So you're actually admitting you got a double. Well, I actually thought you had, because at the times I've seen you sometimes, you look very different from the time I've seen you before.
That's my double. All the top politicians have a double.
Really? I've seen that with Prince Charles as well.
Theresa May, she had her double was what's his name? Montgomery Burns.
And when you go and have your weekly meet, well, you don't have a weekly meeting with the Queen at the moment, do you? But you must have a phone call with her.
Oh, Liz, yeah, you'll have a phone call with her every now and then, yes.
And what is she like to deal with?
I don't like her that much.
All right. Why is that?
Well, just look at it all. I mean, look what's going on with the royal family. I mean, like Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, it looks like he's got a jug on his shoulders.
Yeah, but he talks to plants, doesn't he?
Yeah, but that improves it, doesn't it?
And I've just heard, actually, tonight, actually, while I'm on air, that Meghan Markle is expecting another child.
Where?
Well, she's going to have another child. She's pregnant.
Oh, I see. I thought he meant this one that just turned up.
Oh,
I'm not knocking at the door, so let me in, Megan.
and how do you get on with
It
Keir?
won't be the first time.
How do you get on with Keir Starmer?
Who?
Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition.
Oh, I just ignore him.
Doesn't he annoy you?
No, it just goes straight over my head. You know, he keeps coming out with all these political statements, and I ain't got a bloody clue what he's talking about.
And then there's
I just ignore him.
then there's this other MP that I think is your, I think he is the leader of the House for the Conservative Party, Rees-Mogg. Now, he is a very, very, very eloquent. He almost should time travel back to the 1800s. He speaks such good English and so proper.
Well, I'll let you into a little secret, your listeners. He's a vampire. That's why he sleeps in the House of the Commons, you see, during the day, and he comes out at night.
Well, he has been caught slouching on the seats.
Well, he's sleeping, you see. He's unlike the bright light.
So, and what about Mr. Matt Hand on Cock? How do you get on with him?
Would you rephrase that, please? That sounded rather naughty.
Matt Hancock.
I thought you said how do I get on with Hand on Cock?
How'd you get on with Matt Hancock?
He can be quite difficult at times. He can be quite difficult.
Is he a compulsive liar?
No. He reads from a script.
Oh, right. Okay. And
yeah, he just, my advisors give him a script, and I ain't got a bloody clue what they say to him or what put out paper. They just give it to him and he reads it out. Whether it makes any sense to anybody, I don't think it does, but it just baffles me. I should think it baffles a lot of some reader, white van man, you know. So that's what it's all about. If you confuse the general public, they just, after a while, they just had enough, and they just don't take any notice. So that's, of course, what we want, so we can get on with our agendas.
Well, yeah, and obviously your agendas aren't very good for the human population, are they?
Well, it depends. I mean, if I told you that we have extensive files on UFOs in the space aliens and that sort of thing, I mean, you would just turn to me and say, well, yeah, so all that is working, you see. It's all being using psychology with the British public through the media.
Well, yeah, and the best way to hide it is put it in front of them.
Absolutely. That's why I'm a bumbling idiot, you see.
and obviously somebody that don't know how to comb their hair.
No, it's not my hair, is it?
Ah.
Well, this one is I get them transported from a farm in somewhere in Sunset.
Oh, right. Oh, Dick Wiener knows that person, yes.
I bet he does. He'll be back in a minute. He's just gone out for a beer, I think.
So he's interviewing you, but he's gone out for a beer.
Well, yeah, I mean, he saw me talking to you, and he thought,
you must be a beer,
and I'll come back in a minute.
So are you going on other shows tonight, or just this one?
Just this one, then I'm going to my local pub.
Are you? But it's not open, Boris.
It is for me.
Well, and obviously, you know, I'm sure that you're in the House of Commons quite often, because the House of Parliament actually got 16 bars, haven't they?
Well, yeah, but I don't get on with some of the people that frequent them bars.
Oh, right, yeah. What, that are in your party?
Well, yeah, because they stay sober most of the time.
Yeah.
They like to get asked after a good evening session in the House of Commons.
And I expect your bars are still open in Parliament, aren't they?
I've got bastards in the House of Commons, was that?
No, the bars are open in Parliament, aren't they?
Oh, well, yeah, only on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Oh, right. And, you know, your day must be really busy having to sit down with that Chris Whitty and Valance.
Yeah, well, they just baffle me with science and all these things.
You just agree with them, I take it.
I have things written for me to say on these populations. And these idiots, you know, on these video calls you see when I'm taking the conference, they ask me all these silly questions. That's why I don't really answer them properly, because I ain't got bloody clue what they're on about.
Well, no, and that's why you say, do you want to answer that one, Chris, or do you want to answer that one, Mr.
Well, absolutely, you know. You know, you don't have a dog and bark yourself, do you?
Well, no, absolutely not. But, you know, there's a lot of people quite alarmed when you actually went up to the podium and came to a press conference.
What's he got to do with it?
You said, there's 100,000 people died, and I've done everything I can.
Well, yeah, I mean, 100 people die from this coronavirus. Well, I mean, what else? You want, you know, what else would you do?
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, I suppose it is.
I wouldn't close the borders, because that seemed a silly thing to do. So it all came flushing in. Now, you know, I'm always one to close the door after a horse is bolted.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Because I get very creative. And, you know, it keeps my mind alert. I get very creative and coming up with all these excuses, see?
Yes. And what do you do to relax, Boris?
Oh, I play tiddlywinks with my wife.
Do you? Well, that must be very interesting. And,
yeah.
And you got engaged as well, didn't you?
I might win this week, because you have to use her other hand, because she broke it.
Oh, no. How did she break her hand?
Well, I was walking upstairs, and I opened the bedroom door, and she put her arm out, you know, the open door with a glass, and said, "Would you fill me up, please, Boris?" And I turned round, and because I'm not the slimmest bloke, you know, my body weight went against the door, and it jammed her arm in it and broke it.
God, I bet she wasn't happy about that.
No, and she wasn't very happy either, because I couldn't fill her up either. We ran out of wine.
Oh, right. She likes a glass of wine.
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah.
And obviously you've got lots of staff in 10 Down Street. It's not very big either, is it?
Well, it's like the TARDIS effect, really. You walk from outside, you just see the front, you know, it's got number 10 on it.
Yeah.
This big back door.
But there's lots of people.
I'll tell you a secret. Behind there, it's just a caravan.
A caravan. It's just a
front. It's just a front. It's got number 10 on the big door.
So when you open it and go inside, you come out to a big caravan.
You open the door, you walk straight into a caravan.
Wow. That must be big caravan, though.
Well, big enough, I suppose you could have 10 people seated in there. But
wow. That's incredible. So the pictures of you all sitting around a cabinet table is all just CGI'd, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely, computer generated. Yeah, like a lot of things, you see.
So really, you're sitting around a little table in the caravan. Where Michael Gove is making some tea.
It's just me and lots of video screens, you see, because he's on the Zoom thing.
Oh yeah. But you do meet people in there, don't you? You do have Michael Gove and people like that come visit you.
Yeah, I make him go to the toilet on the outside toilet because he stinks when he does a shit. He does. Oh.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that, Prime Minister, but never mind, you did. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, Prime Minister. And
it's been fascinating talking to you. I think Dick's back.
Hello, Dick.
Did you have an interesting conversation with my guest? Did you?
I was having an interesting. I didn't mean to take over your show, Dick Weiner, but it was very interesting. Yes, very interesting. He's
that's good because I forgot to have a toilet before I came on air. You see,
right, yeah.
So I took the liberty of having a pint or two at the bar before I came back because you were getting on swimmingly with our beloved Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Hang on, Boris, where you going? Oh, God, to the bar. He's off to the bar.
He's off to the bar.
Yeah.
And
he's off to the bar.
How long have you been doing this new job then, Dick?
Well, this is my first week. This is my first
and your first week?
I wanted to make it different and open it up, you see.
Well, you seem to have a knack of opening your guests up because he's very, very, he's very open in his conversation.
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, we had a few tipples at the bar, for an hour before we came on air.
Yeah.
So, and got him quite loose and hopefully he did come out with quite a few answers. Hopefully the right ones to your questions.
Yeah, it was interesting. And obviously you don't go window cleaning now, do you? Because you must be on a off the radar figure in money.
Oh, I still got my fingers in window cleaning, but I don't actually do that anymore. I have my partner does that now.
Was it right that Yuri I Can't Ski works for you?
Well, I did employ him for a little while, and then he had to go back to Russia for a couple of months or something, and he's recently turned, only about 2-3 weeks ago, and I took him on, and I'm very impressed with his work and how he talks to the customers and how he got on well with the rest of the workers, and so I just handed it to him while I'm doing this job.
Well, that's really good. That's quite he's running it, basically.
Yes, and Dick just stands at the side, watching it all go on.
Well, that must be quite good. We did have Dick I Can't Ski on here a few weeks ago, actually, telling us that he was working with you.
Yes, and I know he's eager to come back onto your show as well. So maybe in the next few weeks he may make a return.
And he told me a very funny story about when he's told that he had to go to he was going to go to Wetherspoons, and he thought he needed to take a spoon there.
Oh yes, yeah. That made all of us laugh. That did.
He told us that.
He had to go with a spoon. Yeah.
With a spoon, yeah. and I'm sure Yuri I Can't Ski. I'm sure that he has been an astronaut in the past, hasn't he?
That I haven't heard, but if that's the case, I mean, I might even get him on the show.
Well, yeah, I would, because I think that he knows all about Sputnik.
Pardon?
He knows all about the Sputniks, doesn't he?
Sputnik, that was a bit before his time.
Well, yeah, but you know, the new models, if you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, his grandfather was Yuri Gagarin.
Ah, right. Yes, well, that all makes
So
sense now.
That's something to do with it. Pardon?
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, on his mother's side. Yes.
I mean, what you could do when you could send him up into space and clean the outside of the space station.
Well, yeah, could do, but I mean, I would have thought Elon Musk would have taken that up.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk seems to be doing everything at the moment. So, you know, merging AI with humans, which is a very interesting concept, isn't it? Eventually, you won't have to go and do Windows at all. No one will, because they'll be done by robots.
Well, I don't know about robots. I mean, they'd make a mess if they fell off the ladder, wouldn't they? All the nuts and bolts lying all over the place.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really fascinated that you got your own show. It's a show within a show talking to you. It's very interesting. Thank you very much for letting me talk to Mr. Doris Boris.
Yes, he's an interesting character, isn't he?
He is a very interesting character.
Hang on, he's beckoning me through the window of the bar. Come on. So I better come off. You know, when the Prime Minister is going to buy you a pint or two, well, I mean, you don't say no, do you?
You're very lucky. You're very lucky you can have one, basically. That's really good. Yeah, well, we will catch up with you again soon. It's a very interesting concept where you sit now. And
yes, it's very interesting. And okay then, my friend, I say adios and enjoy a few bevies with Boris.
Yes, enjoy some bevies with Boris. And we will.
It almost sounds like a fitness program, doesn't it? Bevy with Boris.
It could be a new beer, Bevy with Boris.
Yeah.
Now you're onto something. You need to talk to him about that. Just in case he loses his job or anything. And
Bevies with Boris. That's got a kind of a ring to it, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I think you're onto a winner. We will catch up soon. And
sounds better than pulling Johnsons, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. Yeah, it does, yeah. And it's been fantastic talking to you. And we will catch up and talk to each other again very soon. And you know, have a good rest of the evening.
I shall, and it'll be very good talking to you again, my friend. So
yes.
I'll say goodbye
yes.
and take care.
Yes, goodbye. Thank you very much, Dick. Thank you. Dick Wiener there started his own show. Caught while he was window cleaning and thought that he'd make a good person to run a show. And his first guest is Boris. And we've just been talking to Mr. Boris. What a very interesting conversation that was as well. Well, what an interesting show all around. It's gone really, really quick as well. I hope you enjoyed it tonight. I hope you enjoyed the guests, the news and everything else. Don't forget, you can pick me up or put me down, whatever you want to do, on a Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, for the Inview that we have in the week. And on there, that's going to be open for you to ring in, text, whatever you want to do, email, whatever, Twitter, Facebook, all the stuff, to comment and take part in that show. I'll have a plethora of subjects. Well, one of them obviously is going to be COVID. And we'll talk about lots of different things. So we'll have a good rest of the week leading up to Wednesday, because I'm going to see you on Wednesday, and then I'll see you on Sunday again. So have a good time. Take it easy. Stay safe. And above all, believe in yourself, because yourself is the key. Your key to everything. Lose your ego. Lose any barriers, any haze, any fog, and just be yourself, because that is what it's about. I will catch up with you Wednesday. Have a fantastic few days, and thank you very much for watching and listening tonight, and good night.